Queensland's Minister for Women has said a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman. She says that allowing anyone to identify as a woman is inclusive. Sure, and allowing anyone to identify as the Women's Minister is clearly a failed experiment. Shannon Fentiman should be sacked. Have a listen to the world's most inept Women's Minister insisting that women exist only in the imaginations of men.
Let's be inclusive. Anyone that identifies as a woman is a woman. And as the Minister for Women, I take a really inclusive approach. And we want to govern for all Queenslanders, but all people who identify as a woman are part of our policies and strategies to advance gender equality, because gender equality is inclusive. You know, it's not one group advancing at the expense of another. Let's be inclusive and bring everyone with us.
Someone needs to tell Miss Fentiman that just because you preface your stupidity with "let's be inclusive" doesn't somehow cause whatever you say next to make sense. And all that earnestness in the world doesn't mean you're right. You can be earnestly wrong. Let's do a little experiment. Imagine if I said anyone that identifies as Indigenous is Indigenous, and as the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, I take a really inclusive approach. Even if you're the blue-eyed albino descendant of British convicts, if you identify as Indigenous, you're Indigenous and welcome to run up and down Ayers Rock with your mates anytime you please. What sort of reaction do you think I would get? I'd be denounced as a racist who was trying to erase Indigenous people, and fair enough. Women, however, women are fair game. Imagine if I said any energy source that identifies as carbon neutral is carbon neutral. And as the Minister for Energy Policy, I want to take a really inclusive approach. So if you're a coal-fired power station but you identify as a wind farm, you receive billions of dollars in government subsidies. What sort of response do you think I'd get? I'd be branded an anti-science idiot who was a danger to the planet. And fair enough. Women, however, are not as valuable as Indigenous people or wind farms. Let's try this one more time. Imagine if I said anyone who identifies as a children's educator is a children's educator. As Minister for Education, I want to take a really inclusive approach. So if you're a man caricaturing women in a highly suggestive, totally sexualised way, but you identify as an early childhood educator, we'll arrange an audience of children for you. What sort of reaction do you think I'd get? Actually, hang on, they'd probably book the public library and help me out with the advertising. Forget that example. My point is, you can't say something is anything because then everything is nothing. Here's an excerpt from a new dictionary that will be likely published in the near future by the Queensland Labor Party. Aardvark, noun, anything identifying as an aardvark. Abacus, noun, anything identifying as an abacus. Abandoned, adjective, the state of identifying as abandoned. Abattoir, noun, anything that identifies as an abattoir. You get the idea. Imagine if I said that a three-sided shape could be a square and a four-sided shape could be a circle. Would you say, "Wow, you're so inclusive, can we hire you to teach our children geometry?" Or would you say, "You might just be the stupidest person on earth. Have you considered becoming a minister in the Queensland Labor government?"